Welcome to the Total Soccer Show Weekend Review. In life, only three things seem guaranteed: death, taxes, and Bayern Munich winning the league. It's a course of action that Leverkusen couldn't reverse, and now, finally, Harry Kane has broken his curse. In the Premier League, Cole Palmer showed his chops against a Liverpool team that are already wearing their flip-flops. Leicester and Southampton traded blows in the derby now known as El Crapico. In Spain, Barcelona won and Real Madrid scored 3, while in Italy, Inter still trail to Napoli. My name's Ryan Bailey. Joining me today, it's your friend of mine, Taylor Rockwell. Hello, Taylor. How are you, sir?
I am doing well, Ryan Bailey. Not as well as you are, because your son and most celebrated footballer, Harry Kane, has finally won silverware. I do feel like you celebrated that on a personal level this weekend.
I did indeed. All I could think of, Taylor, was Eric Dyer saying, I won something for the first time too.
That's the real headline.
I saw a lot of pictures of them hugging. There seemed to be celebrations going on. It did feel very much like Harry Kane and Eric Dyer won silverware for the first time ever. Yeah.
The English bias in the English-speaking media is terrific, where every single Bayern Munich story has had Harry Kane in the headline, to be fair. But
yeah, that checks out and is
that
accurate.
Checks out. Yeah, it does indeed. It does indeed. Joining us also, Taylor, we have Mr. Graham Ruthven. Hello, Graham. How are you?
I'm very well. Ryan Bailey, how are you? Have you dried out from your Weezer gig over the weekend? Are you still dripping?
Listen, I went and did a young person thing. I went to a music festival on Saturday night.
To see Weezer, not that young person.
1994's Weezer, yes. Very young person thing that I did there. But it was terrific fun. Thank you very much. They had a weird theme running through the gig, though, Graham. Their seminal first album is called The Blue Album. So they were doing this thing called Race to the Blue Planet, and they had screens where like an alien was trying to get to the blue planet, and they had scripted lines throughout the gig. They were saying like, "Oh, there's our enemy alien. Let us get to the blue planet quicker." It was cheesy.
I'm getting Wayne Rooney in a wine commercial vibes from this.
That was it. Do your impression, Graham?
They say he is a legend.
Accurate.
Greatest advert of all time. Maybe Weezer should try their hand at that, or not.
Casiero del Diablo, I want to say.
Hey, it worked! It worked! 15 years on, you still remember.
Still remember.
It really was a legend.
Was anyone into the Weezer thing, Ryan? Were people cheering it on? Were people following along with the plot? Or were they just sort of like, can you play the next song, please?
It was more, I would say more the latter.
Yeah.
And I'm being charitable because I do like Weezer a lot, Taylor. It was... Weezer, they do lean into the cheesy stuff sometimes, but even that was like, oh, a CGI alien you're having a conversation with now? Like, this isn't Bluey? Like, what's going on
This
here?
isn't Bluey.
I had...
Race to the Blue Planet.
My wife and I went and saw a show here in Richmond, and it's like a former metal band turned bluegrass, which they were very good. But normally with like more folksy artists, you get a lot of in-between in the songs where they're like, we were traveling through Memphis when we wrote this song about blah, 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 or this song was written by blah, blah, blah. And they did none of that. It was a lot of lighting cues. It was a very, like, Taylor Swift folk thing where they would, like, cut the lights and then they'd come back in with one single light. Like Spinal Tap meets Taylor Swift meets bluegrass. It was very strange and different without much interaction at all.
There was a band a few years ago. They were called Hayseed Dixie, and they used to do Dixie versions of AC/DC and hard rock songs, which was a lot of fun. They used to get some traction in the UK.
I hope the opener was the guy who plays banjo and does Slayer covers. That would have been a fitting combo.
Very nice. I hope it was too. Patreon.com/Total Soccer Show is where you'll get our bonus content if you'd like to support this here endeavour, including bonus episodes. With Weekend Review Extra, we're going to, I think, talk about the championship race and the EFL ending this weekend, and another old firm, all coming to Weekend Review Extra on the feed. And there's also
the mandatory side for saying that.
Yeah, bonus video there too, and access to our Discord server. All the cool kids are hanging out there. Patreon.com/Total Soccer Show. A please and a thank you. And just a reminder, we is on the YouTube if you want to see our beautiful visages. Thank you, Graham. And Taylor, who is not wincing through the pain of having broken some ribs playing some soccer this weekend, right?
Yeah, I wasn't aware that this chair doesn't do much for support. Yeah, definitely broke at least one rib this weekend, or cracked a rib. I've done it a few times, and I did it again this weekend, getting shoved into a post, which wasn't the defender's fault. And when the defender said, "Are you okay?" and I said, "No, you shoved me into a post," he said, "Hey, man, you don't need to be a jerk. I'm just asking how you're doing." I was like, sorry, I guess that's on me now. But yeah, still hurting a little bit, still having to adjust on the fly. So we'll see how this recording session goes.
Oh, why are you so inconsiderate, Taylor?
I know, it really felt that way. Between that and then I got tabletopped in the second half, and that's where I feel like I might have broken.
Wait, what was that?
The other rib. That's where I went up for a header, and the guy who I was going up for a header against chose not to jump, but instead backed into my legs. And then, as I came plummeting towards the ground and slammed into the ground, said, "I didn't even jump. How is that a foul?" To which I, still face in the dirt, said, "That's the foul. It's that you didn't jump. That's not allowed."
Who are you playing? The team of Sergio Ramoses.
It was AFC Wimbledon, I think is the name of it.
That's literally Harry Kane's signature move,
That is Kane's thing, yeah.
Well, then I no longer like Harry Kane.
Rude.
There's no jokes. I just now don't like him because that hurt a lot.
Okay, I'm sorry to hear that, Taylor. I hope you're recovering adequately from still playing football in your 40s, which comes with it. Comes with the territory a little bit.
Adequate recovery is what we're targeting these days with that age. Yeah, that's about where things are.
All right, let's get to the Premier League action from the weekend, shall we? Why don't we start off, Graham, with Chelsea's 3-1 win over champions Liverpool. Chelsea in 5th place with that win. 6 changes to Liverpool's side, who have nothing left to do this season. They got a nice guard of honour at Stamford Bridge here. What else did we have? Enzo scoring early. Cole Palmer back in form and on the score sheet in a game that didn't really matter to one of the sides. What did we make, Graham?
Yeah, Liverpool very much, it seems like they are on the beach at this point, having wrapped up the title. But for Chelsea, a huge game for them and a huge result, because when we did our top 5 predictions maybe like 2-3 weeks ago on this show, I had Chelsea dropping out of the Champions League places. Their form was trending in the wrong direction. Now, it's looking pretty good for them. And it did help that they were playing a Liverpool team that, as you say, Ryan, doesn't have anything to play for. So they rotated pretty heavily. Liverpool, Jarrell Quansah started, Kostas Tsimikas, Harvey Elliott, Wataru Endo. So that's an entirely different central midfield. And that was a factor in this game. And I felt like Chelsea had more joy in the centre of the pitch than they otherwise would have. But nonetheless, this was an improvement by Chelsea, who have been better in their last few games. Of course, there's a couple of Conference League games thrown in there. I don't know whether that's a gauge of much for this Chelsea team, a bit of a mismatch, but I think they've won 3 league games in a row now, back up into the top 5. I thought the standout player in this game, there's been a lot of praise for Cole Palmer, and I'll come on to him in a second. I thought Romeo Lavia was really good in central midfield. I am a fan of his. I remember kind of lavishing praise on him earlier in the season. I think at this point, you see the difference that he makes for this Chelsea team. He's a really effective two-way midfielder in the way that they don't have in anywhere else. I think Caicedo, the idea is that he will be that player, but I don't think playing forward he's as effective as Lavia is. He's really press resistant. It's his little pass through to Palmer that opens up the space for the first Chelsea goal. And then talking about Cole Palmer, this was more like it by Cole Palmer. That bit of movement for the goal, the first goal, where he checks back to get into space between the lines was absolutely brilliant. He seemed to be finding a lot more space than we've seen in recent matches. And that Liverpool midfield 3 of Jones, Elliott and Endo, I thought was quite fragmented in moments. I thought you could tell that they haven't played a whole lot of football together this season. And that suited Palmer and Chelsea. And of course he was pleased, or I'm sure he was pleased, to end his goal drought with a penalty at the end as well. So a lot of positive stuff here for Chelsea. I'm feeling a lot better about their chances of finishing in the top 5 now.
Okay, that's good. It's nice to be positive about Chelsea, Taylor. I'm going to say something which I hope doesn't come off as rude for Chelsea, but in the last couple of weeks on Weekend Review, we haven't really talked about them very much. Is it because they're quite boring now? Like the last couple of games, they've not really made it onto my radar.
Why do you find them boring?
Is it Maresca?
Well, a lot of their fans would agree with you, Ryan. I think that they've been more boring as the season has gone on, and a lot of the verve they were showing earlier in the season has disappeared. So I don't think you're going to get pelters for that. I think a lot of fans are going to agree with that.
Haven't we seen this cycle before with like 3 different Chelsea managers, where it starts off and they're scoring goals, then it kind of settles into they're getting results, maybe they're grinding out wins, but it's not that exciting, and then they sack that manager at the beginning of the next season? Do we feel like that's the way it's going to go with Maresca, or do we think Chelsea have stumbled upon a formula that's working for them and then he'll be around?
Well, I think last season, Pochettino, they improved over the course of the season, actually finished quite strongly. So let's hope that's a Pochettino trend. Fingers crossed for next year that they improve as things go on. But this, I think a lot of Leicester fans will tell you that this was a pattern last season when Maresca was their manager, that they start off really, really strongly, and then over the course of the season just seemed to lose a bit of creative and attacking life. And I think this has been a bit of a mystery. Like, I've read quite a bit on how Chelsea have fallen off or dipped off in the second half of the season. I think injuries were a factor. Nicholas Jackson, of course, has a really good first third or first half of the season. He's only just back in the team, so maybe that is a reason why their form has picked up again. But it is a little bit of a mystery. They are quite safe in a lot of their possession, and it does feel like maybe Maresca is a cycle behind the curve where a lot of his, and I think similar of Arteta really as well, where their approaches are very much about control at all costs. And we're seeing teams like Man City, Guardiola's tried to do this with Haaland, be a little bit more direct. And so I think Chelsea could afford to inject some of that into their play. But they are looking better now than they did like a couple of weeks ago.
I feel like it's also a similar situation to like Manchester City, where like City have been in the top 4, but they're not going to be title contenders this season, obviously, unless they make up a massive amount of points in 3 games. I'm not sure they can make up the full 18 in that span of time. So it feels for me like Chelsea are sort of like, yeah, like you kind of know what to expect. Maybe they'll be top 4, maybe they'll be top 5. But like with Nottingham Forest having been in there and Villa and Newcastle doing things, it just feels like they've maybe become a team that we know like where they are and what they're doing, because they've gotten results and they've gotten some good wins along the way. They've had a few losses too, but I think it is probably just a product of it being the end of the season and they're theoretically being other more entertaining soccer to watch.
Indeed. One more note on this game, Graham. Trent Alexander-Arnold played just under an hour. Was it his final hour in a Liverpool shirt? The news breaking today as we record. The news that no one expected, that he'll be leaving Liverpool.
Yeah, the worst kept secret in football is now official. This had obviously been on the cards for a long time, and the suggestion is that Real Madrid had been lining up Alexander-Arnold for at least the full season, going back to last summer, maybe even longer than that. James Pearce has
not tapping up somehow.
Not tapping up. No, that's very different, Taylor. Of course, Real Madrid would never dream of doing anything like that.
No.
James Pearce has a really good. It's one of the things that the Athletic does best, is like the in-depth long reads after a big transfer or a manager gets sacked or appointed. James Pearce, who is Liverpool writer for the Athletic, has a really good one on the Trent Alexander-Arnold saga. So I would recommend listeners go and read that. But yeah, this has been in the pipeline for quite a while. We've obviously seen this type of move from Real Madrid before, where they sign an elite level player as a free agent. I have to say, I've been a bit disappointed by some of the reaction I've seen from a lot of Liverpool fans to Alexander-Arnold. Maybe there's a difference between the online stuff and how match-going fans will react when he plays his last game for Liverpool. And I'm definitely not saying Liverpool fans shouldn't be disappointed, because if this was one of my players, I'd be absolutely gutted. Like, disappointment is the correct emotion here. But a lot of the abuse I've seen already has been too far, in my opinion, and I have seen it in abundance online, quite frankly. People who I follow online who are being quite abusive to Alexander-Arnold, and I just think like this is a player who's won everything with Liverpool, who's been there since the age of 10 or something. He's been at Liverpool, and I've seen the Michael Owen comparisons, but I think Owen left Liverpool at a different point. Like, Liverpool were trying to get back up to the top when Michael Owen left, and so it was a huge blow when he then goes to Real Madrid. Alexander-Arnold is leaving when Liverpool are the best team, arguably, in Europe. I know they went out of the Champions League, but they've won the Premier League title. He's won everything there is to win with that club. And so I just hope fans recognise what he's done during his time at Liverpool. And I have faith that a lot of the match-going fans will, but some of the stuff I've seen online has been, disappointing.
Well, the good news is that Real Madrid fans at the Bernabeu are famously patient and understanding, so he won't get any more of that anymore. So, good luck.
Yeah. There's actually a very good Athletic piece over the weekend on that, on why Real Madrid whistle their own players. It's a culture that they have at that club, so you can look forward to that, Trent.
They never look for scapegoats, and they never look for British scapegoats at that. No. So should go well. Should go smoothly, for sure.
R.I.P. Jonathan Woodgate. Indeed. Arsenal won, Bournemouth 2. Not quite the momentum that Arsenal wanted before going to Paris for the second leg of their Champions League tie.
Disagree. They're going to use it, Ryan. Mikel Arteta has come out and said, we're going to use this anger, the frustration we feel at this result. I've got to spin this somehow. I am desperate to spin this loss to a throw-in. And so it's going to be the anger and the frustration winning Arteta.
That wasn't just any throw-in, though. That was a missile of a throw-in. One of the best throw-ins I've ever seen. It really flipped it on Arsenal, where they lost to a set piece and a throw-in in this game, which is obviously, what did Nicholas Jover have to say about that? Quite the flip of the script there.
Does he? I haven't watched Match of the Day in a while, Graham. Does he do the post-match interviews now?
They say, yeah, remember Fergie used to send out Mike Phelan to do his interviews. Arteta just gets you over to do them because what else is there to talk about?
Set-piece guy for the win. Arsenal, according to Opta, have now lost 21 points from winning positions this season. Their joint most in a single Premier League campaign. Heritage.
Yeah, and talking about the game itself, this was a really awkward game for Arsenal to have in between those two PSG legs that we're referencing there. And talking of the Champions League, I think it's likely that Arsenal will finish in the top 5. It's not certain yet. Like, they've got a couple of really difficult games coming up there. They've got Liverpool and then Newcastle, and then they've got Southampton on the final day. So you would think they'll get that done, but it could go to the final day. When you look at the other fixtures, I think Nottingham Forest are playing tonight as we're recording on Monday, so that could have a big bearing. This could date quite badly. But yeah, Arsenal they're in more peril with their Champions League place than I had thought a few weeks ago, where it was just like an absolute certainty that not only were they going to be finishing in the top 5, that they'd be second. And now, because their form has been so bad, I mean, they've won 3 in their last 10 league games now, and a large part of that is down to the fact that they've rotated a lot of their best players for those Champions League games. But yeah, it's not the best place for Arsenal to be right now going into that PSG second leg. Go on, Taylor.
I was going to disagree with you because it would be Nottingham Forest who would have to be the one to kind of close that gap at this point. But Forest have the game in hand against Crystal Palace. Then they're home to Leicester. They're away to West Ham. Final day, they're home to Chelsea, who might have nothing to play for. So you could conceivably see Forest picking up all of the possible points there. So then it would be Arsenal having to still have a bit of a slip up. It would be tight. But I was surprised to hear you say that. I did not think that would be the case. But yeah, Arsenal in second could theoretically not be in Europe next year. It's
kind of, which would be wild if Spurs then won the Europa League and Spurs are the North London representative in the Champions League next season. I think that's unlikely. Not the Spurs thing.
I would put the odds at like 5,000 to 1.
Yeah,
Arsenal aren't in Champions League next year.
I think you're right, Taylor. I think you're right. But they've got a little bit of work to do that I didn't anticipate a couple of weeks ago. And when I say they've rested players recently, that's certainly true. I didn't watch this game live because I was watching my own team's dismal season come to an end with a lifeless 0-0 draw on Saturday. I had a great time. But when I got home and saw the result, I presumed Arteta had rested all his best players, as he's been doing recently for this game with that PSG second leg coming up. Wasn't the case at all. There was 2 changes to this lineup. I think one of them is Ben White. The other one escapes me. But it was like there were 2, you could argue, first team players coming into that lineup. So it was a really strong Arsenal team, and it ended up being the worst of both worlds, where they didn't get any real rest, and it was a really damaging result, no matter which way Arteta's trying to spin it.
But Raheem Sterling got 4 minutes. Remember him?
I'm not sure our Arsenal fans will after this season. Yeah, I'll hold my hands up on that one. I thought that was a shrewd move, and it hasn't panned out at all.
Man.
That's a shame. Well, Arsenal, as you say, in second, and congrats for trying to spin some narrative out of the race for Champions League spots in the final few weeks of the Premier League, Graham. That's we all need something to aim for.
We need those numbers.
We do, indeed.
Without trying to, genuinely not trying to, pour salt into a theoretical wound or to frustrate Arsenal supporters, I do wonder how they perceive this season. Because I think a lot of us thought that this could be the one where they finally kick on. This could be the one where they win the Premier League, or maybe they do something in the Champions League. They still theoretically could with the Champions League, obviously, but at this point, if they do get knocked out, they finish second by a wide margin. You're still in Europe, so there's that. But it definitely doesn't feel like it's the same level of growth and success that we've been seeing from them. So I wonder if this is perceived as a success or a failure or something in between.
Next week or so should give us some indication of that, I would suggest.
I'd say you're probably correct, yes.
Yeah, indeed. All right, well, Arsenal in second place. In third place, we have Manchester City, who on Friday got a 1-0 win over Wolves. Kevin De Bruyne with the goal in that one. It seems, Graham, that City, if we're going to be positive about them, they are hitting form at a good time. 9 games unbeaten, FA Cup final in the books as well. So at least there is a nice uptick at the end of this season.
Yeah, I think I've been very positive about City in recent weeks. They've looked more like Manchester City. This particular game, this win against Wolves, certainly not the best that City have played in those last few weeks. And Wolves actually posed a decent threat. So Al-Nouri had a shot cleared off the line in the first half. Matheus Cunha had a shot off the near post in the second half. Wolves, just looking at the numbers here, actually had 2 big chances compared to City's 1. So on another day, this game could go in the opposite direction. But that one big chance, as you say, Ryan, was converted by Kevin De Bruyne, who is having an excellent farewell tour. It looked like his City career might go out with a whimper back when he announced that he was leaving. But he has looked so much more energetic in the last few games, and I think this slight system change to get him into a more advanced position has really benefited him. What is interesting is that Erling Haaland, the goal bot himself, was back on the bench for this game. So he'll be coming back into the team, you would assume, before the end of the season. City do seem to have found some stability without him. It seems nuts to suggest, but adding Haaland back in, well, it has the potential to disrupt things again. That's the thing with Erling Haaland, the best finisher of his generation. But in a lot of off-the-ball scenarios, you are playing like with 10 men, nine outfield players. So that's going to be a little bit of a wrinkle for Man City. Also interesting that Kevin De Bruyne has given a couple interviews recently where he's made it quite clear that he's not particularly happy that he's leaving Man City. He said that, just looking at the article here, he was surprised they didn't make him an offer. I personally, this is my own opinion, I still think this is the right time for a parting of ways. But yeah, De Bruyne is he's maybe playing to prove a point to end this season in his City career.
I'm still surprised by that. Not that he wants to stay, or not that he feels slighted, or even that City have moved him on, just that this is how it seems to be coming to a conclusion. Because it did feel like it was sort of going to be the amicable, like I've had a really good time here, I've had a lot of success, it's time to move on, the club wants to move on, it is what it is. That it has started to kind of rumble out and create some discontent, and it was talked about on Match of the Day in a very, like, I can't believe they're doing this to him sort of way, in my opinion at least, is how it sounded to me. It feels like it is getting a bit more acrimonious than I would have suspected. It reminds me of, like, Beckham at Real Madrid, to go back to the perception of Brits at Real Madrid, that, like, he suddenly is kind of rediscovering some form, is becoming a key player for this team, or the player that he has been, and so I think that narrative is growing. So maybe Haaland coming in and scoring a hat-trick will remove that entirely, and Haaland winning the FA Cup will remove it some more.
Is that not a Pep thing, the fairly abrupt finish to a star player's career at a team? Like Barcelona, he kind of did a clear out, didn't he?
So I think it's kind of a Man City thing, to be honest. They've done it with Aguero, who, keep in mind, like, didn't retire. I know he has the heart complication soon after, but he goes to Barcelona, right? Not for long. Like David Silva goes to Real Sociedad. Vincent Kompany, I think maybe he did retire. But City it's one of the things City have been really good at in the Abu Dhabi age, is like moving on players before they become like a weight around their neck. So it's part of the reason I think this is the right time for De Bruyne to move on and for City to move on from Kevin De Bruyne. But there's a weird vibe about that whole situation now.
And elect for one season, Vincent Kompany.
There we go.
To your point, yeah. And I think other less wise clubs based in Manchester would have given him another deal for a lot of money, and then they would now have that around their necks where they can't sign players. Maybe they're closer to PSR violations, but they've kept this guy around for a year longer, and hopefully he can contribute. But if he can't, well, then here we are. So I think it is kind of ruthless, but it is also kind of a sign of the times.
That other Manchester team is Stockport County, I assume.
That's the one.
Yeah, good.
Yes.
Okay, glad we sorted that one out. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, a few more Premier League games to run through, Bayern Munich's title win, and much more. Join us then. Total Soccer Show, welcome back to the weekend review. Let's go to the Amex. Has it got a non-sponsor name, their stadium? Is it just the Amex?
I've heard it called the Amex.
Oh, it does have. I was going to say, is that? I wasn't going to correct you, Ryan, because I thought it must be an American thing.
Excuse me, I have to go use my American Express card in a second. What were you saying?
No, still not.
No, not working.
I couldn't tell if you were genuinely trying to make your point.
Sometimes with Ryan, it's difficult to tell divide the sarcasm out from the rest. Is it not called the Falmer Stadium or something? Is that? It's a bit like, remember Arsenal when they were building their stadium? It was Ashburton Grove. I think it was similar name. But the Amex Stadium. I've never been, but apparently it's a very nice stadium to watch football at.
I've been past it many a time. It looks lovely. It's nestled in the hills in Brighton. Very nice indeed. They had a 1-1 draw, did Brighton, with Newcastle this weekend. Alexander-Isaac getting the draw for Newcastle with a late penalty, keeping Newcastle in 4th place in the league. Taylor, did we catch any of this one?
I did. I found this to be a very fun and at times hilarious game in which Newcastle were awarded 3 different penalties, only the final one standing. One ends up being contact outside of the box. One was definitely a dive, and everybody but the official knew it, and you could see on all the faces, like the Brighton players all indignant, the Newcastle players all just sort of like, this is going to be a booking, isn't it? And it was, but they do eventually get the penalty. They do eventually equalize with a really well-taken goal from Alexander-Isak. Then we get the customary everybody trying to pull the ball away from the goalkeeper not giving it up. That seems to have been a thing that like nobody has read the rulebook on, that it's now the team that's just conceded, it's their possession, so they can keep the ball as long as they want. It's always funny when the attacking players get very angry that the ball won't be given back to them. But in the end, it doesn't really matter because it finishes 1-1.
It's one of the most stupid, illogical things in soccer. That whole, having said that, see if it's my team.
Oh, yeah.
And you're 2-0 down, you score 1. See that boost of, like, I don't know what it is, adrenaline that the player with running back to the centre circle with the ball gives you is top notch. So I'm still in favour.
I'm in favor of that, and it is one of those where, like, similar to complaining to the referee about, like, you're never going to get the call reversed, you're never going to get things changed. Don't do it. And yet, in the moment, it's really, really difficult not to do it. I think it's really difficult not to want that ball and run it back and be the hero and slam it down onto the center circle. It's like, here we go. We're going to start things the right way. But it was not to be for Newcastle on the day.
And talking of slightly illogical post-goal actions, Yusufa Minta's celebration was kind of weird, where he decided, he initially looks like he's doing the full respectful muted celebration, of course, a former Newcastle player. Never played a game for Newcastle, by the way, but nonetheless was on their books, does the whole, please forgive me for scoring against my former club, but then does a heel turn halfway through where he seems to be rubbing it in and pointing at them and telling them, where to go. So that was weird.
The moment got the better of a lot of people in this game. It seems maybe logic went out the window. That was really, really odd. One thing I do want to make sure to spotlight there, though, is the assist. I forget. I'm sorry. I had it right in front of me, and now I've lost it. Wiefer, the right back, Mats Wiefer, the right back for Brighton, has the assist for the Menta goal that if people have not seen, I would encourage them to go find. It's one of those things that is just a reminder of how good all of these players are, because it looks so simple, and it's not really that out of this world or anything like that, but it's basically just a ball that's been partially cleared. He's chasing it down. He's running away from goal towards sort of like midfield, but out of bounds. His entire body shape is basically that he's going to have to take a touch to control. Maybe he'll take a little bit of a little touch to then kind of turn and go back and then play a ball in. And instead, he plays a ball that like is a FIFA ball where like the physics don't seem like they should work, but you've hit pass and you've hit forward, so the player's going to play it even if they're facing the wrong way. He plays a ball behind him with his instep that he should not be able to play, and it is a perfect pass to Minta that I think also catches Newcastle out, and I think goes a long way towards explaining why they are slow to react and slow to close down Minta, who gets the goal. It's a really, really, really lovely ball that is so simple, but a good reminder of how talented these players are, even if I can't remember Mats Wiefer's name right away.
There we go. Aston Villa with a 1-0 win at home against Fulham, recovering nicely from their FA Cup semi-final defeat and boosting hopes of Champions League qualification. Villa, Graham, are 7th, 3 points off in that race for 5th through 2nd place, we're calling it now? Okay.
Yeah, nobody tell Unai Emery that if you finish outside the top 5, you go into the Europa League, because that might change his ambitions. An important win for Villa, as you say, Ryan, given those ambitions of qualifying for the Champions League again. Not a hugely entertaining game, to be honest. I thought the standout player, and this is not the first time I've said this, or we've said this in recent weeks, was Yuri Tielemans. Scores the winner in this game, which is was a header from a corner from a set piece, which isn't usually his game. But I actually want to ignore his goal because his all-round performance was the thing that really stood out. It was absolutely brilliant. He's been brilliant for the last couple of months or so. He's playing with, like, Taylor, I think you agree with me on Tielemans at the moment. How would you describe it? Like, he's playing with like so much authority. Like everything he's doing with it is like done with such conviction. He's controlling things. His off the ball work is really strong as well. So he has become their most important player, and he's really driving them forward to finish this season.
I'd say like he's a reliable decision maker in that when he tries to like do a progressive carry, it tends to be the right moment to do that. When it's a simple pass or a couple simple passes, it's the right moment for that. When it's a more elaborate sequence, I just feel like he gets his decision making right, so that there are times when he is a standout performer and he plays a next level pass, or he has a really, really lovely finish to give Villa a goal when they need it. But he so often is just a glue guy who plays really smart passes and recycles possession and retains the ball, or will put in a challenge, or will break up a play. And I think just does a lot of work that sometimes gets him the headlines, oftentimes does not. But I think he is always a reliably strong performer for them.
It's quite appropriate because in Flemish, Tielemans, of course, means talisman. So there you go, authoritative player. I just made that up. I just thought it sounded cool.
You never know. Again, you never know with you. You might know like bits and pieces of Flemish, and then act like who doesn't know bits and pieces of Flemish?
Yeah.
There we go.
Right.
Watches In Bruges once.
Excellent movie. Thank you very much. Brentford 4, Manchester United 3.
Hey.
Man United rallying late on in this one. Not quite enough to...
Did they?
A mini rally?
Yeah.
I thought I saw some rally.
I mean, just when it's 4-3, I had this exact moment because this happened while I was playing, and my teammate Dan and I were talking about it afterwards, and he was like, "Oh, 4-3, it's close." And then you look at it, and it's like, no, Man United went up 1-0, then Brentford scored 4 without answer. Then Man United added 2 somewhat late, 82nd minute and 95th minute. So it was never really like a shootout or a back and forth fixture, but it is also maybe a sign of where things are for Manchester United this season. Very much a second-string team as they target Europa League glory, I guess? I don't know. Can you finish 16th or 17th and still say the season was glorious?
I think this was the youngest Premier League lineup for something like 14 years, so that gives you an idea of just how much of Man United's season is riding on that Europa League, making that Europa League final and winning the Europa League. Taylor, Luke Shaw's back. There's a positive. Back scoring own goals and came very close to scoring another own goal before the one he actually scored. So hey, there's a positive for you.
Yeah, aren't we due for him to get injured just in time to come back for England and then get injured again? I can't believe he played a whole 46 minutes without getting hurt. Yeah, credit to him. So happy he's back. Love him so much. Between him and Matthias de Ligt getting injured, I do have little concerns about the second leg. If there were a team that could find a way to choke away a 3-0 road win by coming home and losing 4-0, it's this Manchester United team. So an interesting second leg for them, and an interesting weekend for Tottenham, who also got themselves a point, or they got themselves a point. Manchester United got 0 points, but it's another one where both of these teams are just finishing the domestic season on such a whimper. Like, if you remove the Europa League, both of these teams being 15th and 16th respectively would be so much more of a talking point, and has been plenty of a talking point at points this season. Neither one of them has reached 40 points. Like, in a conventional season, there is a chance they would actually be in a relegation battle, just that the bottom three have been so poor so consistently. But man, what a strange way to end this season, with, I think, Manchester United getting 2 points from their last 5 games in the league. Spurs maybe with 4 points. I think they've gotten a win in there at some point in the last 5. So I guess that's good for them, but neither team covering themselves in glory, put it that way.
No, that 15th place versus 16th place Europa League final. Can't wait. That's going to be cool.
It really hurts them, because like when you get a team that's like 4th in the Bundesliga in the Champions League semifinal, we're sort of like, should they be there? Like, I mean, they should be there. They earned it. But there is a feeling of like, they're not quite at that level. I can't imagine the Europa League is stoked that this could be the final.
Indeed. 16 league losses for United this season, by the way, Taylor, matching the loss count from 89-90, which was the last season they finished in the bottom half, confirmed to finish in the bottom half.
Is this season, Manchester United?
This is Manchester United.
89-90, did you say? Yeah. So they're playing Ferguson football. They're playing the Fergie way.
In a way.
Yeah.
Pre class of 92 Ferguson football.
Yeah, pre good Ferguson football.
Taylor's saying nothing. Let's move on.
I just would like to point out that this is Graham just trying to get away from having to talk about Big Ange yet again, because I believe Spurs have managed a fair few losses themselves, Graham.
Not that I've heard of. If you don't watch their games, it's the bear in the woods question.
There you go. That's 4D chess for you right now. Speaking of 4D chess, by the way, Crystal Palace are playing later on Monday as we record. But did you see the story of Eberechi Eze winning a celebrity chess tournament over the weekend? He beat a YouTuber called Sapnap in the final and won a $20,000 prize. So Eze is good at chess. That's what I just thought.
I mean, it depends on how good Sapnap is at chess, to be honest. Which,
I mean, it was a chess.com celebrity tournament, Graham. So
I was going to say never judge a book and all that, but I don't have a huge amount of faith that Sapnap is the new Magnus Carlsen.
All right. Well, we shall see. Fair enough. Everton 2, Ipswich 2. Ipswich came from 2 goals down to secure a draw at Goodison. The final Saturday kickoff at Goodison Park. And Ipswich, if you look out for any goals this weekend, have a look at Julio Enciso's opener for Ipswich. Banger. Absolute banger.
Yeah, I remain confused by Ipswich because they are getting relegated. But then they have these moments where they fight back and they have players like Julio Enciso who can be difference makers and score worldies. Am I crazy for wanting them to come right back up, or have we seen enough Ipswich this season?
No, they're like a likable team, right? Their story. I just think their issue was they just didn't have enough top end talent. I think certainly in central midfield, their attack is actually decent. Like Liam Delap obviously has shown he's good enough for this level. Weirdly, after this game, he went into a house. Anyone who's been to Goodison Park will know that there is a line of terrace houses right opposite the turnstiles to the main stand. He went into a house after the game to sign a wall that apparently an Everton fan is getting as many players and people associated with the club and opposition players to sign this wall in his house before Everton leave Goodison Park. So not entirely sure why Liam Delap, who has, as far as I'm aware, no connection to Everton at all, felt compelled to do that. But anyway, back to the point. Ipswich do have attacking talent. It's just the rest of the team that I think has been let down. So I don't know. There's a chance that maybe they rebuild next season, and we've seen the parachute payments, how they've created this loop. So I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility that they could be back up in a couple of years.
The Everton supporter was a time traveler, and they just know that Liam Delap is going to go to Manchester United for a lot of money, not do well, be loaned to Everton, and eventually sold there for a cut rate fee, and then he'll score like 40 goals the next season.
The Darren Gibson.
Yes. Minus the 40 goals, yes.
Minus 40 goals, yeah.
Smart wall investment.
Morgan Schneiderlin, Wayne Rooney. There have been a few other ones that have been shipped on back to Everton.
It's a trade route at this point.
Trade route. I thought it was Liam Delap's dad had thrown a throw-in once at Goodison so hard that it went through that wall. That's what they wanted him to sign.
No, that's where he started his run-up.
Got it.
It's like there's like a church. There's a church in Austria where you can still see like the pockmarks from Ottoman cannonballs. Like that's what they have at Goodison, is just the Roy Delap throw-in remnants that they've left behind to honor the memory. I like that.
All right. One more Premier League game to note. The aforementioned El Crapico, Leicester 2, Southampton 0. Congrats if you tuned in for that one. Both teams, of course, will be playing each other next season, but not in the Premier League. Jamie Vardy scored his 199th Leicester goal in their first win since January.
What else did he do, Ryan? What else did he do?
He did another thing, Graham. He did another thing. He didn't get his 200th goal, but what he did do, I think it's worth a goal. The highlight of the game, referee David Webb, he went down injured. Was it RU? I think he clashed with someone and he hurt his face. Yeah. And as he was down, Jamie Vardy grabbed the whistle around his neck and blew it. It was... So
it's pure comedy. It's the fact that the referee is on the ground writhing in pain. By the way, the referee comes off injured, and Jamie Vardy, while he's on the ground, grabs the whistle and doesn't like grab it and stand up. He's like leaning down to ground level to blow the whistle. It's just a genius moment. Loved it.
I thought it was... I'm being charitable here. And Jamie Vardy spoke with Gary Lineker, and he said, to be honest with you, I saw Southampton sprinting down the left with the ref down. I thought I would blow his whistle to stop the game. So he was generally like trying to stop the play happening rather than like banter. Maybe it could be both.
No, it's definitely banter. Have we talked about the same person yet?
Fair enough. Well, that was a lovely moment from El Crapico. Indeed. We're going to be talking about the Championship and Leeds getting not promoted, winning the Championship, we should say, this weekend. Much more on that on Weekend Review Extra. Just a little note from the EFL I wanted to drop in here on the main feed. MK Dons have finished the 24-25 season in their lowest position since their controversial formation 21 years ago, ending EFL League 2, their campaign in 19th place. Very sorry for all affected by that dreadful, dreadful club and their low finish there. Let's move on to Germany, shall we? RB Leipzig 3, Bayern Munich 3. RB Leipzig's Josef Poulsen scoring in the 5th minute of injury time to prevent Bayern Munich from lifting that 33rd German title in their stadium with their fans.
By the way, sorry to jump in, just a classic Harry Kane moment where he is suspended for this match. I don't know if this is where you're going to take us, Ryan, but he's suspended for this match. Bayern Munich are winning 3-2. They're going to win the title. Harry Kane's going to have his moment. And Eric Dyer, of course, rushing onto the pitch to then celebrate. And Josef Poulsen scores and Harry Kane has to go back up to the stand. So even when he wins, he does it in the most Harry Kane way possible. I think he posted something to his Instagram on Sunday when Leverkusen's result confirmed it. But he was denied his moment still.
Yeah, the curse lasted another 24 hours or so because obviously it was Leverkusen's draw with Freiburg that allowed Bayern to win the title while not being in this stadium. It would be nice for, I think maybe they could have done it next weekend at home and had Thomas Muller and all the celebrations that they were cruelly denied for their 12th title in 13 years. Hey, maybe they'll get it next year at home. Hey, maybe there's a chance. But congrats to Bayern for that one. Sesko's opening goal, by the way, the breakaway from Leipzig and the outside of the foot from 40 yards or something. What a finish, Graham. It was lovely.
It's so emphatic and it's so unnecessary as well because you're big, or you are big, however you say that. Slips and is like 30 yards out of his goal at the point. But yeah, just so emphatic to do it with the outside of the boot. Maybe Arsenal are going to spend like 100 million on him, just solely on the basis of that finish. It'd be understandable.
Yeah. Can you do that, but from a set piece? Like, that's what we're looking for here at Arsenal.
Yeah, Nicholas wants to know.
Yeah.
This was also just another like definitive Leipzig performance from this season, where you go up 2-0 inside the first 40 minutes, then you let Bayern come back and score 3, and then at the very end you're like, oh right, we needed a goal, and then you get 1 to like sort of make it a good result, but not as good as it could have been, but fine enough. It's been not a great season for Leipzig. This was an okay result for Leipzig. Certainly a better one for Bayern Munich in the end.
Yeah. Having said that, Taylor, I don't disagree with any of that. They basically won the title with this result. But it was a game from the Bayern point of view that sort of showcased their strengths in an attacking sense, but also their weakness and some of the stuff that Vincent Kompany needs to address, and Max Eberl and Christoph Freund and the sporting director over the summer, where like I kind of think of them as very similar to Barcelona in terms of how devastating they can be in the attack. And I think you look at some of the successes of this team, it's the combinations between Jamal Musiala and Michael Olise. Olise's been one of the best signings anywhere in Europe. I think you could argue he's been Bayern's player of the season this season. But defensively, it still feels very volatile. They have control of games in terms of their possession. Statistically, they're the most possession-heavy team in the Big Five leagues at the moment. That's the way that Vincent Kompany wants them to play. But in another sense, they don't have control because one ball in behind undoes them so often. And I think the personnel, the defensive personnel, is where they need to focus. Like you've talked about this, Taylor, in a number of episodes. Kim and Upamecano feels like they've got a mistake in them pretty much every time they play. So that would be the focus. Like if I was Bayern, I'd be going in for like 8 million for Mickey van de Ven or someone with like a bit of pace, like defensive pace to be that safety net. That feels like where they need to make a lot of progress.
Luke Shaw. Luke Shaw's available.
Luke Shaw is available. I'm not sure Bayern Munich.
No, he's injured. We talked about him too hard and he got injured.
That'll do it. But do you agree with me? Like it's been I think they have made progress, Bayern Munich. Obviously, they've won the title, which is the starting point. Next season, the pressure will be ramped up because it will be like, well, you're expected to win the title. We now need to see progress in the Champions League. There's still some structural and like personnel stuff with this Bayern team that needs to improve.
Yeah, I think so, because I think like last season you had like Stuttgart with where they finished would have like won the title any other season, but so many teams getting so many points. This year, it just felt like everybody dropped off. Leverkusen obviously not reaching the heights they were able to reach. Dortmund, Leipzig, we've talked plenty about them. Even Frankfurt having an up and down season. So, Bayern winning it at a relative stroll felt normal. Like having good performances along the way and good results and good wins and lots of goals scored also felt normal. But I think there is, because the league wasn't nearly as strong, it feels a little bit like, was this Bayern rediscovering form and figuring everything out, or was this the league not being as good and Bayern kind of just doing the status quo? So I think Bayern were plenty good, and I think they will reinforce it. I think they will be a continued threat with Vincent Kompany in charge, winning his first league. Definitely say that to his face. He really loves it when you imply that he didn't win the championship. That hasn't been. Have you all seen that? How often people keep asking him, like, how does it feel to win your first league title? And he, increasingly annoyed has to be like, I've won before. I won with Burnley. Stop forgetting I managed Burnley. And I do appreciate his loyalty to the championship.
And we did great the following season. Thank you.
We don't have questions about that. Yeah.
Very good.
It was they were reverse promoted.
Leverkusen obviously failing to beat Freiburg on Sunday, which confirmed Bayern as champions. We'll take one more quick break. When we come back, we'll take a look at the Liga, Serie A, MLS. Join us then. Total Soccer Show, welcome back to Weekend Review. Let's go to Italy, shall we, where Inter stayed 3 points behind Napoli. They had a 1-0 home win over Verona, did Inter. The resting of players here was quite curious. 10 Inter players rested. Simone Inzaghi wasn't on the touchline either. He was suspended. So basically it was an entirely different team playing against Verona here. They're resting players, of course.
Was it an optional work day? It was like, the manager's not going to be there. On our system, if you want to show up, you can. But if not, we'll figure something out. And then a lot of people went the I could use a vacation day route.
It was work from home Friday kind of situation.
There you go.
That's what they were doing. Yeah, and most people chose to do so. It seems it was I'd say it's a really risky move when you're 3 points behind in the title race, and basically it's completely done if you don't win that game. To change 10 players out, I thought that was quite risky. But hey, they're putting all the eggs in the Champions League basket, it seems. So.
Yeah, I mean, but anytime you can ride a 9th-minute penalty all the way to the end, you've got to do it, and that's what they did. It was not my favorite viewing experience this weekend in Serie A, watching that game and the Napoli game. I watched the Napoli game first. A good win for them, certainly. The 1-0 win over Lecce, keeping them top of the table. It felt like it was going to be a stroll when Lukaku scored a goal that he absolutely did not know he scored because I forget who shoots it, but it comes off of Lukaku, but he happens to be standing in the most marginal of offside positions, so that goal is disallowed. But then it is the Raspadori goal in the 24th that gives Napoli the lead that they hold on to. That was really the end of my notes for this game. It was quite the slog. Napoli did very well to limit opportunities to kind of shut things down. XG for this one was 0.33 for Lecce. They don't get many opportunities, and they only have 9 shots, 1 on target. It was a pretty low excitement sort of game from my vantage point, at least.
Yeah, it was a proper grind by Napoli. I'm recording every Napoli match at the moment, so I can watch them later if I can't watch them live. So I watched this one on Sunday morning, which fitted the vibe of Sunday morning. Felt quite sleepy. Yeah, you're right, Taylor. I'm just looking at the numbers here: 0.3 to 0.44 xG. So. Not a rip roarer of a game. There was a nice bit of set piece theatre with McTominay for the Raspadori goal, where he does this weird run over the top of the wall and over the ball into the wall, and then ducks down below the stripe. But I have minimal notes for this game. I think Conte will be most pleased with how solid defensively Napoli looked, particularly with Alessandro Buongiorno missing. There were concerns over Lobotka and Anguissa. They were both in the team for this game. Buongiorno was not. So that is a concern for Napoli, but they are 1 game closer, 3 games to go until they can get their hands on that title.
Ryan, are you with me that Graham likes saying Buongiorno, and so now that he gets mentioned every Weekend Review? I feel like twice a week now we're getting Buongiorno updates from Graham Ruthven.
What, is it the Scottish accent, or am I saying it wrong? One of the multiple names that I
No, it's just I feel like it's a fun name to say. So
it is a fun name to say, especially Alessandro as well. Alessandro Buongiorno. That's a quality Italian
nice accent
name.
there. That was good. Thanks. It's always fun when Buongiorno and Buonanotte play on the same team, I find.
Yeah, that's good.
It is. Como with a 1-0 win at Parma, by the way. 5 wins in a row for them. They're sitting in 10th place. They've gone from just scraping, avoiding relegation to being a massively informed team under Cesc Fabregas. So good stuff at Como. Roma with a 1-0 home win over Fiorentina. Big win for them, putting them up into 5th. It is the 9th 1-0 win of the season for Roma. 8 of those under Claudio Ranieri. They're just not going to let him retire, are they? They're going to, unless Cesc goes there. Who knows what's going to happen there? But 19 games by my count undefeated are Roma as well. Atalanta had a big old 4-0 win over Monza, which relegated Monza, bottom of the table, solidifying Atalanta's third place in the table. Bit of sad news, though. A 26-year-old fan of Atalanta was stabbed fatally during clashes between Atalanta and Inter fans over the weekend as well. A male in his late teens. Were our thoughts with everyone affected by that one. One more bit of news from Italy for the first time in 34 years. Pisa leaning their way back into Serie A. Huh? Right? Yeah.
I see what you did there.
Thank you very much. They are back, Graham, with another Inzaghi in charge.
Yeah, people. He's their manager. I did a newsletter on this earlier in the season. Pisa are a really interesting club with the way that they've built up through the lower divisions. This will be the first time they've been back in Serie A for 36 years. I didn't realise until the weekend when I saw a number of people tweeting this on social media how close their stadium is to the Leaning Tower. It's basically over. If anyone who's been to the Leaning Tower of Pisa, they'll know that it's kind of like an enclosure, and beyond the wall of the enclosure is basically where Pisa's stadium is. So I have been at the Leaning Tower
on it feasibly. Is it underneath the tower?
Well, I mean, some of the pictures make it look that way. So I'll need to visit again. The last time I was in Pisa, I think I've told this story. Some children threw fireworks at a car at me. But maybe that won't happen.
Hang on, you were in the car and they threw fireworks at it?
No, I was walking and some children were in a car and threw fireworks at me and Lucy walking. I was drinking a cappuccino after midday.
That would be it. You tried to put some cheese on your fish in your pasta. They were right. That's fair enough. You deserved it. Let's go to Spain, shall we? Barcelona with a 2-1 win at Valladolid this weekend. Went behind by a pretty freakish deflection, but came back here, Graham.
Yeah, this looked like being a difficult evening for Barcelona, who, as you say, Ryan, fell behind early on. It is a heavily deflected goal, but nonetheless they all count. Valladolid did give Barca some problems in the wide areas, where they had Gerard Martin on the left, Hector Fort on the right. 10 changes to the Barcelona lineup with that second leg against Inter in mind, so they matched Inter in that regard. One of those changes, though, was Marc-Andre Ter Stegen, who is back from injury, so poor Wojciech Szczesny is back in retirement. That could be big for Barcelona for the final weeks of the season. I think it's a bit too much to expect he will fix their defence, because I don't think anything could do that. I don't think the Large Hadron Collider could fix Barcelona's defence at this point. But having him as a stronger goalkeeper potentially could make a difference. But Barcelona were 1-0 behind at half-time. They then make a couple changes, or 3 changes at half-time. Lamine Yamal, Frenkie de Jong, Rafinha, all come on. Not a bad contingent to have coming on at half-time, and that really transformed the game for Barcelona, and immediately Barca had more threat with Yamal slinging in crosses from the right side. That's how they got the equaliser when a ball fell to Rafinha and he finished. The second Barca goal also starts with Yamal on the right. Barca then circulate it all the way over to the left and then cut it back for Fermin. It's a really nice finish. So, I guess it must be nice for Barcelona to know that even when things are going against them and they rotate their team like they did for this match, they can just make a couple changes for the second half and everything will be fine.
The Ter Stegen coming in for Szczesny feels like the car dealership where the person has done all the work getting the sale, and then someone steps in and goes, "I'll take this one. I'll sign the paperwork from here." Champions League final coming up. Yeah, title win. Yeah, I've got this. Ter Stegen's here. Don't worry. That seems harsh. That seems very harsh. But
do you think Szczesny tried to pass him the keys and missed entirely and played them 40 yards out of bounds?
Yeah. Oh, well, back to the beach for me. Never mind. Real Madrid 3, Celta 2. Kylian Mbappe scoring twice in this one. Arda Güler's opener was a lovely banger as well, Graham. Real Madrid staying within 4 points of Barcelona. Next weekend, of course, they meet in the Clásico.
Yes, which will have a big bearing on the title race. 4 points between those two teams. Barcelona could effectively win it by winning that game, but we'll talk about that next week. With this game, strange match in which Real Madrid were really inconsistent over the 90 minutes. We've said that before about them. They made, I know, Taylor, what a shock. They started really slowly, where nothing was really happening, and then all of a sudden Arda Güler just took a grip of the game, and he made it 1-0 with, as you say, Ryan, that laser into the top corner. But it was also linking up really nicely with Mbappe, which we haven't really seen Mbappe being played into. We haven't really seen, normally it's from the left side with Vinicius, or like Bellingham will drift out to the left as well on that side. We haven't really seen that side to Mbappe with him getting played in from the right side, and Güler was doing that in this match. So There might be a bit of a regret from Carlo Ancelotti that he hasn't used him a little bit more to have that extra dimension on that side of the attack. I really want to see more of Güler next season because he is just such a all-round threat. So he scores a goal in this game. He also plays this brilliant pass through to Mbappe from deep to make it 3-0. So he's a quality player. But it threatened to become quite a good performance by Madrid, who were pushing the fullbacks nice and high, and that was pushing the Celta fullbacks. Mingueza, particularly on the right side, is so crucial to getting service into Borja Iglesias. And then all of a sudden, they just completely dropped out of it, and Celta came back into it in the second half, and Ancelotti put on Jacobo Ramon for his debut when the game looked won at 3-0. That seemed to, not to pin it on a young kid, but that seemed to really unsettle Real Madrid at the back, and the set-piece frailty popped up again for the first Celta goal. Then they got in behind for the second goal, and Pablo Duran had a really similar opportunity to make it 3-3, but Courtois made the save, and he made a number of big saves in this game, so that the match could have been different if it hadn't been for him. So it became a bit edgy for Real Madrid in the end, but they got the 3 points to just about stay within touching distance of Barca.
Yes, indeed. One more moment from Spain that Graham wants to highlight, of course, Betis and Antony scoring the curliest curling outshot outside of the box shot you'll ever see. It was great, wasn't it? Yeah,
I was sort of second screening this game while watching the tennis on Sunday, but I leapt out of my seat when I saw this go into the top corner. It's an absolute stunner from Antony to win it for Real Betis against Espanyol right at the end of the match. It's just as the clock ticks over to 90 minutes. It's the sort of goal that makes other players on the pitch stand with their hands on their head, like Isco is standing with his hands on his head. It's right in the top corner. So much power and whip on the strike. Goalkeeper has absolutely no chance. That description doesn't actually do it justice. If you haven't seen it, listener, go and seek it out. That is now 10 goal contributions for Antony since joining Betis. He's only played 17 games. He's closing in on what he had for Manchester United in 3 seasons in 10 games for Betis. He scored a volley against Fiorentina in the game before. Betis are close to making the Conference League final, which would be a big deal for them. He's legitimately been one of the best players in Spain since he joined. Graham Hunter was doing the commentary over here in the UK, and he was comparing them to Lamine Yamal. I think Lamine Yamal is obviously at a much higher level, but the way that he plays, coming in off that right side, and the creativity, and the fact that he can just put it in the top corner from anywhere, it's a pretty decent comparison. And Betis are desperate for him to stay next season. There's crowdfunders from fans to try and raise the money. Man United apparently want 30 million for him. I don't know how many fans Betis have. They might have a bit to go on that. But yeah, he's been genuine. I know I've liked to wind up Taylor with Antony and Betis, but he has genuinely been brilliant, and it's just fun to see him as the player again that we saw at Ajax, which was he was so good to watch there as well.
And the spinnies, Graham, always important. It's interesting. I saw the interview with him where he was saying basically that he needs a positive environment. He needs to have the backing of the fans and to feel sort of accepted and loved to kind of continue to find new levels and find creative expression and find ways of playing at the level that he aspires to, and it feels like he has reached that. I kind of hope he stays with Betis. I would love to have him back with Manchester United playing well, but I do wonder if maybe that's almost too traumatic at this point. Stay in Spain and have fun, Anthony. It's a more fun world when he's scoring goals and making Graham happy.
So Man United want 30 million for him. I can't quite work out the economics of that deal for Man United, to be honest, but
well, I think they'd want more.
I think they would too.
I don't think anyone's going to pay that. The memories are still fresh of how bad he was for Manchester United, as good as he's been for Real Betis.
Well, you never know. A big Premier League club might come in and offer more. You never know. Ooh,
or Wrexham.
Honestly, Wrexham. There we go. There's the answer. America's team. Now we can put Wrexham in the headline of this episode. Major League Soccer. We will be focusing on MLS in our show dedicated to the league, of course, later in the week. But a quick roundup of the action, including, but not limited to, Vancouver doing another win, a 2-1 win over Salt Lake, keeping them top in the West, Graham. They are the real deal.
They look like it, which is not something I saw coming at the start of the season. They're just such an incredible team, Vancouver. Pretty much the complete side at this point, where almost everyone on the pitch is contributing in a major way, and in a lot of cases in a way that you didn't know that they could. Even down to apparently Tristan Blackman scores bangers into the top corner now, as he did in this game for Vancouver. So yeah, they look pretty unstoppable at the moment. The fact that they come into this game, they roll into this game after demolishing Inter Miami in the Champions Cup a few days beforehand, and then just don't skip a beat as they continue their winning run in MLS. It's kind of wild at this point what they're doing.
Yep. And Columbus top in the East after that 4-2 win over Charlotte. I watched the first half before I went and stood in the rain to watch Weezer and their aliens. And, seemed like a decent game, Graham.
Yep, a fun game, although not so much for yourself, Ryan, I'm guessing, or anyone who is a Charlotte FC fan. But there's no shame in losing to this Columbus team, particularly away from home. One thing kind of not totally related to the match, not sure why the stadium looks so empty on TV. I'm not digging out the Crew because that's usually one of the best atmospheres in the league, and I know it was bad weather. But if any Columbus fan has a theory on why that might be, I'd be interested. It was just a bit stark. It was the emptiest I've ever seen that stadium. They're having a decent season, so that was a bit confusing. But it's a huge May for Columbus. It was a good start to the month for them because they've got 7 games in this month. One down, 6 to go. Their next few games are Philly away, Montreal away, then Cincy, then Charlotte at the bank, then Nashville, then Inter Miami away. That's a tough run that they've got now, so we're going to learn more. They've had quite a favourable start to the season with some of their fixtures, Columbus, so we're going to learn more about this team over the next few weeks.
Yeah, but they'll get 4 or 5 against Inter Miami, so it's fine.
As everyone does.
Certainly in the last few days. And LA Galaxy still bad, Graham. Is that a fair assessment?
So bad that they're now losing games without even conceding a shot. I don't know if you guys saw this, but MLS history was made in this match. This was the Sunday night game, and I often make a point of watching the Sunday night game regardless of who's playing in it. But this was the first time that a team has won despite having 0 shots in a game. Not shots on target, 0 shots. 0.00 XG Sporting KC had. They won 1-0. And that pretty much sums up the way things are going for the Galaxy at the moment. I felt a bit sorry for them in this game. They controlled a lot of this match. They limited, as I've just illustrated, Sporting KC to nothing. Not the most zestful attacking performance, but they had chances. They clearly had the better chances, but things are just not going for them at the moment. 10 of the 11 MLS Cup starters played in this game for the Galaxy, so that's a bit concerning that previously it was like, oh, they just need to get their team, their players back together. Obviously, Ricky Puig is still not playing. But, they just can't get out of this huge rut that they're in that I think is now becoming pretty compromising for their whole season. Like, it's not just, oh, they've had a bad start. It's now a case of, is this team going to rally enough to get in the playoffs? Which is wild for a defending champion.
Do you feel like they need more defensive stability, Graham? And if so, should Luke Shaw solve their problems?
Yes, that's what they need. They've already got Yoshida to score on goals. They need another player to.
In being linked with the Galaxy, Luke Shaw was injured, so that's going to put a damper on that one.
That'll
unfortunately,
do it.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Did Luke Shaw, was he the guy who broke your ribs this weekend? You've got a bit of a vendetta over him, Taylor.
Yeah, he's just the latest recipient of my frustration towards the club that I enjoy. Yeah, and maybe also he did break my ribs. You never know.
He needs to join Betis on loan. I think that's what needs to happen.
There you go.
Or Napoli.
Or Everton. Or LA Galaxy.
Any other team at all. We'll do it. There we go. All right. Plenty more MLS coming on the feed later in the week, but that is the weekend thoroughly reviewed. Taylor Rocco, thank you very much for your part in that, sir.
Thank you, my friend.
Graham Ruthven, pleasure as always, and good man.
Thank you, Ryan Bailey.
Listener, thank you very much indeed for joining us on this feed. Weekend Review Extra on our Patreon, patreon.com/Total Soccer Show. But for now, bye!